I'm really excited to bring to you Nicki, an accomplished leader in property development who brings a very diverse background to her role as co-CEO at Core Projects. And with over 8 years at the company, Nicki's strategic vision has driven remarkable achievements, and the leadership is evident in the success of residential developments like Woodlands, Arana, Harley, and many, many more, as well as some of the commercial ventures, especially by some of the record-breaking sales, such as 6085 Davis Road. So Nicki's journey sort of underscores the commitment to excellence in innovation and sustainability, leading a lasting impact on some of Australia's property development marketing. Her original educational studies included a postgraduate from the University of Melbourne in property valuations, as well as a multifaceted degrees in Bachelors of Marketing Management and Business Admin. And today's podcast is sponsored to you by Eagle Vision. Eagle Vision, where your trusted partners in property development, driven by commitment to transparency, a straightforward process, and a deep passion for helping our clients create sustainable legacies that will endure for generations to come. So over 15 years of dedication to our craft, we've now successfully delivered excellence across nearly 700 projects, including approximately 40 land estate subdivisions. In recent years, we've harnessed the power of 3D visualization to actually create interactive and immersive master plan experiences. These cutting-edge tools empower future residents to explore master plans as if they were strolling down their own neighborhoods using Google Street View. Behind this innovative tool lies a treasure trove of insights. Our integrated heat maps and advanced sales functionalities allow you to meticulously track and analyze buyer behavior, providing invaluable data for informed decision-making. Experience the future today. Visit us at eaglevision.com.au to discover a world of possibilities. Or better yet, get in touch to immerse yourself in the future of broadacre development marketing with a personalized demo of our interactive master plan, a remarkable 2,000 lot subdivision in the Hunter Valley in New South Wales. Join us on the visual journey of transformation today. And now back to our guest. So welcome, Nicki.
Hi, Tan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I really wanted to start with your journey into greenfield development. So how did it all begin for you?
Yeah, I've always had an interest in property. I sort of grew up, both sides of my family, farming background, and I grew up across the paddock from my grandparents. And, I spent my Saturdays in cars driving around the northern suburbs of Melbourne because my dad was an auctioneer and real estate agent. So very much the land and the sales part has been in my DNA from day dot. So I think I've always just had a passion for it. I've always understood the lingo. I've always been immersed in around it. And, even my grandparents were share farmers as well. So we knew a lot of the other local families who had properties that, eventually were amalgamated and became communities like Aurora and whatnot in North. And probably to that, my dad also, sparked my interest in it, not just being, he started off as a general real estate agent in sort of the northern suburbs of Melbourne, but then moved into working with those landowners and the farmers to help them understand the value of their land and come together and then help facilitate those broadacre transactions of these large land holdings, like I just referenced, like Aurora to like a Lend Lease and things like that. So sort of, having been exposed to that, as a kid and growing up, it just sort of seemed like a bit of a natural progression to have a passion for the space. And then we developed our family farm as well. So sort of seeing how that came about, I was just always really captivated and interested by it.
That's amazing. And so can you talk to us a little bit more about your family farm and what was it like emotionally as well as, I guess, for the future residents of that community?
Yeah, I think, I was really fortunate in that my first real exposure to greenfields and greenfield sales and master planning was a really personal experience in that it was our grandparents and our family farm that we'd grown up on. And it was actually I had several family members involved in, I guess, helping the design of that and helping drive that almost from a development management perspective as well. So obviously the level of care and thought that went into it because it was representing our family and, we'd been part of that community for 70, 80 years. So it was very much a legacy piece from day one of what the community was going to be. So I think having or having my first experience being a legacy piece versus maybe more of a cut and carve type development where it's all about the profits and how much you can get out of it and how many lots you can squeeze in, has given me a really different mindset in how I approach master planning to this day. So, it was great, just things that I picked up, like really trying to enhance the natural attributes of a site and working with, the beautiful river gums that we had and the rock, the old sort of rock retaining walls that we had and the homestead, and just really focusing on those elements and then creating a site layout and a master plan around that so the whole community could connect back to and enjoy these things and give the community a sense of a past as well as a future, because I think sometimes in the greenfield space it's all about, oh, it's a blank canvas and what can we make it and let's tell the story about what it can be, whereas I think sometimes there's a lot of value in telling the story of what the site used to be, and that was very much obviously part of the legacy of our family and the family, and coming from a farming community, that was an important story to tell. So I think that yeah, there were probably those big things that I took away from that, as well as the community activation. So I did get very hands-on with that project. By the time we took it to market, I was old enough to work casually in the sales office of a weekend. So got to, which I actually really loved, because it was my first taste of who are these people that buy in these communities? What are they asking? What are they looking for? Who do they come in with? Who's helping them make decisions? All these things that now I think about when I'm advising, or, when I'm giving my opinion. I really understand, I guess, that real frontline experience and who that purchaser is. So, yeah, and then I ended up actually living in the community as well. I bought my first property there. So then I also got to hear that feedback from residents about what they loved, maybe what didn't work so well, maybe some of the outcomes that, in hindsight we could have tweaked, or really clever things that we did that worked well, like where we had rock sort of embedded into the road, rumble strips, if you will, where there was a section where power lines sort of went overhead. So it sort of distracted you from looking up because you had this sensation. And just small little things like that that were really clever, that make me now appreciate and observe those one percenters in the communities that we deliver to this day. So yeah, so that was probably a great first experience for me.
Yeah, that would have made all the difference by putting in those tiny little insights of, hey, this is what the future community is going to be like, because it's going to be there for generations and generations to come. So it's quite incredible what you created there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah, go on.
Oh, and I was just going to say, I'm probably also just thinking about just some of the things that seem really simple now and commonplace, but this was sort of talking 20 odd years ago. Just small little community activations, like we had walking groups, or at a certain time of year have like a Christmas tree light sort of, competitions, and just these things that got people and neighbours mixing and talking. And I think that wasn't commonplace back then. I think there's definitely some move back through great place activation and things like that now. But I definitely saw the benefit living in that community of those things. And it's definitely something that we try and champion within the communities that we work on now.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. So we've talked a little bit about the marketing background, but then you went off and studied property valuations. What was it like combining the marketing and valuations? They're quite different sort of degrees.
Yeah, they are. So I actually started off doing a business and marketing degree. So I always definitely had a passion for, um, I guess business and wanting to build things and whatnot, and understanding the metrics within those. And then being passionate about property, and obviously I'd been working in the sales office part time. I wanted to be able to bring something to that experience that maybe, the business that I was working within didn't already have. And I'm a massive on all the real estate apps, and your spare time, and always looking at the values and once transacting. So I realized, why don't I actually go and study this? And so yeah, I went to Melbourne and did the postgrad there in property bells, and I think that was excellent because it gave me a really whole, I guess, a really well-rounded sort of knowledge of not just greenfields, but also commercial, industrial, how rating and assessment more from a council valuation standpoint. So I think there was a lot that I took away from that, and it really has allowed me to understand how developers look at a feasibility and the inputs and understanding all those metrics, as well as then understanding that, okay, but then here's how we market it and here's how we talk to those people. And so I think it's given me this really unique blend of being able to almost be the analytical side as well as the creative side to that. So yeah.
Yeah, it's far more comprehensive because you're now seeing not just, hey, let's spend some money on making sure that we can market this and activate the community, but actually how does the project overall yield the numbers that need to be created, and or maybe there's a different way of approaching a project and creating something else that perhaps might then work out better.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, brilliant. And so then you joined Core Projects. What was it like with some of the earlier projects that they were working on?
Yeah. So fun fact, I'm actually one of the founding directors of Core
All
Project.
right.
My co-CEO, James Thomas, and I obviously lead the charge now. But we started out as two different businesses. We were Northside Land Sales, focusing in the north and the land sales space, and then we merged with Stockdale and Lego Projects, or SNL Projects, who had more of a southeast base. So when we sort of came together, I think there was a total of 10 of us or something when we merged 8 odd years ago. And I think we've got just over 70 in the team now. So
Wow.
definitely those early days, those projects that we had on the books were definitely of, the smaller in scale, and probably those first time developers where I think we were probably providing a lot of guidance, but how much they could take on board and comprehend. It was a real hand holding journey, whereas I think over the years we've sort of established and taken on bigger communities and had some really, great wins and provided really great value to our clients. Over the years, we've sort of picked up some of these larger scale communities now. So we sort of work across anything from, you know, probably 50 lots to our biggest project, community of 14,000 lots. So
Wow.
some really large scale, large scale developments in our pipeline. And I think across the projects, I sort of lead this strategic lead on the big master plan stuff. I like the long term. That's my motto to the team, is always like, play the long game. Don't just look at the short term wins. We've got to see how that impacts the long term. Because when you've got a community of 14,000 lots, that's not going to be a 2, 3, 4, 5 year event. That's going to be, 15, 20 year sort of event. So it takes it takes a very different mindset, and I think a strategic sort of focus with that. But it's definitely been a journey, obviously, having just a business both in property and how volatile the property industry can be in terms of its peaks and troughs and cycles, and having a business that's grown through that, as well as then growing as a leader and growing, as a person in the industry as well. It's been an incredible journey. I've been really fortunate that I'm surrounded by great people. I've got to now work on, I would say some of the leading communities within Australia, and I continue to invest in what I know, what I understand. I did a study to the US, sort of mid-year with some of our developer partners and some different industry people. So yeah, it's been a interesting time.
I can imagine. All right, so let's talk about some of your projects. So Warra Lily and Armstrong Creek, could you share maybe some of the insights that have contributed to their marketing success?
Yeah, I think probably with Warra Lily, probably the key element there is that we work with Newland on that, and they're a fantastic developer in that they're really passionate about what they do. And Warra Lily is within the Geelong area, so they've made a real effort to employ local as well as partner local, and I think that does make a difference. But I would probably say their focus on some of the environmental initiatives within that community early on. I think Warra, I believe, is in its 11th year now. So in terms of some of these things that they thought about, they were really progressive and ahead for their time. So they've absolutely transformed the creek that runs through, and leveraging now Lake Conowari and having all the wildlife that comes into that community, and the asset that it's created through the heart of Warra Lily has been a real success story. So it's not just about the lots that they've delivered and whatnot. It's actually about, that environmental element that they've created and enhanced. But the other thing that they've done really well, and I think through the sales process has been really, really valuable, is that we've had a clear precincting strategy from day one, having, sort of anywhere from 4 to 6,000 lots, depending on how you look at it. That's a lot for a first home buyer walking in and being like, oh, that's so much. Like, that's a big place, and it can seem quite overwhelming. So to be able to talk to neighborhoods and different value propositions, so you can quite clearly ascertain, oh, okay, you're coming in and you're looking at this budget. Let's not talk to the creek fronted product that starts at $500,000. Like, let's talk about this and, sell them the benefits of something that's meeting them where they are. So we've really designed a very tailored customer journey for each of those precincts to really help people understand the value of each area of Warralilly, but not overwhelm them with the scale and everything that it has to offer. So I think that precincting structure and the above the line branding that went with that has been a real key to their success. And probably the final thing, and one of the most important things that I think across any master plan community, particularly that's trying to achieve consistent volume across all the market cycles, is just the ability to adapt to different market cycles. So for example, in COVID, the development group behind Warralilly decided we're going to make the best of the home builder grant that came out. And we started to see, the inquiry coming in, and because everyone was locked down, people were looking for lifestyle centres like Geelong to move out to. So we had this, huge elevation in demand. So they decided to start construction on a whole bunch of stages without any pre-sales, just backing themselves in that would give them the ability to bring the volume of product to market that would most, I guess, allow them to really capitalise on, the inquiry that we were seeing. So we sort of went from doing 20 odd sales a month to we did 100 sales a month for that year of 2020. It was a huge year, but without the foresight of them doing that and being nimble and just being able to flip that script to make that call, we definitely wouldn't have had that success across that year. So I think that definitely that ability to adapt and look at market conditions and take that feedback back on board was key. And obviously we needed to adapt then to going from managing 20 sales a month to 100 sales, that we needed to, I guess, evolve our team and elevate that team and add to that team. And so we needed to be equally nimble in that and agile. And I think that that's where we get the best results, is where we can meet our developer partners in terms of that ability to be flexible and adaptable.
Yeah, I was about to say the ability to have the capacity and then move up as required is a fantastic resource to have. I was also really curious. So some of these buyers that would have bought in that Warralilly community initially, would they potentially stay in the same community and then maybe 5 years later buy a nicer home, maybe closer to the creek and that kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. We have a upgrade, like an upgrade offer for all existing residents, where I believe it's $10,000 off when they buy a second property to upgrade. And I would probably say, in terms of an incremental sales strategy, that works really well. Probably get a couple of those sales, every couple of months. But it's definitely been one of those communities where we see people buy their first home. Now they've got their second home. Now they've bought an investment as well. It is just one of those communities that, because it has been delivered so well, people continue to invest in it and they continue to love it. Or the amount of stories we've had where, mum lives here and now there's a release around the corner and now the kids are moving to Geelong and they're going to move there. Or so it's definitely been one of those multi-generations but multi-home communities. And I think, with big master plans, planning for that and continuing to nurture your clients even after post-sales, post-settlement, continuing to talk to them about those next opportunities is a really important part of that sales strategy and marketing process.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so now let's switch gears a little bit. And so some of your communities, you've given them names and connected them to Indigenous communities or Indigenous names, so like Orana. So have you looked into how this then translated into sales and what it does for the master plan community?
Yeah, so typically when we're going through where we're going to position a community in that naming and sort of branding strategy, we'll work in conjunction with our developer partners and then a creative agency um, to look at that. We take in a number of different things and, who the demographic is going to be and all those sorts of things. But then there are also some things that we just do for the benefit. There are some things we do for the benefit of the sales results, and then there's some things that we do that really we do it to genuinely benefit the community and create a better connected community. And I think when it comes to talking about, First Nations people and what we do with, sort of Indigenous culture, a lot of that comes from a place of authenticity that we think it's important to tell the stories, like I mentioned earlier, of the land before, it's going to be this community and, what is the traditional history to that and honouring that. We are, at core, we are a B Corp. So we do sort of measure both our social, we don't just measure our our financial impact. We do also take into our account our environmental and social impact. And we do have a reconciliation action plan in place as well. So any opportunities for us to be able to sort of advance and support First Nations people, we definitely take that on board. And where it also aligns with the values of our developer partners, like Falcon at Arana, where they see the value in it too, we definitely try and roll that out because we do feel it all comes back to community, and the better quality community you can create, the more value you do create in that community as well, and the more demand. And then, yes, at the end of the day, that equals better lot prices and all of that. But I think some of these initiatives start from more of a place of philosophical and sort of, value driven rather than necessarily monetary driven.
Yeah, doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
It's pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, and there are definitely developers out there that are passionate about this. And I think for me, that's been one of the tough things with this industry is that so often developers are painted as, money hungry, always trying to do the wrong thing, just trying to maximize what they're getting out of things. Where, we work with some incredible developers that have a real focus on their purpose and, they care about their legacy and they're trying to do the right thing. And I think that, those stories probably aren't spoken about enough in the media. I think it's just a lot of that, typical rhetoric where it's easy to paint the developers as the bad guys rather than the good guys.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk a little bit about technology because that's been changing rapidly over the last little while. How do you leverage it in helping you market master plan communities?
Yeah, so as recently as last week, we just won a Prop Tech Award for our platform that we've just brought to the market over the last 6 months that we've been developing for about 3.5 years. It's called GRIP, which is a Greenfields Research Information Platform. So what that allows our developer partners and selected subscribers to be able to do is log in and look at real-time information on land lot sales. So everything from what's selling where to lot trends to what's sticky to you can do corridor analysis and all those sorts of things. So we use GRIP a lot in terms of when we're curating information to work out what lot cuts we're going to do or recommend a product or maybe find gaps in market as well where there's no product but maybe there's demand for that product. So definitely looking at a platform like GRIP, because what it does is it also date stamps and time stamps every lot. So if I sell a lot today and then it comes back on the market in 2 years, it's not going to be double counted. It says, hey, I was sold before. I'm actually a lot that's coming back to market. So now I'm a different category of supply. So it's very detailed and it really provides us some excellent insights. But the other tool that I keenly use up front, particularly, in the early days of defining who the market's going to be for a master plan and wanting to understand motivators and drivers, is I use a number of different demographic tools. That can be, postcode data, migration data, can be, Helix personas, understanding values and drivers and beliefs, and all of these things we look at first before we look at product. Because if we understand who's buying, why they buy, who influences their decision, and ultimately what does success look like to them in this space, then we then look at all the trends in the data that we have in the product in the surrounding areas with what's selling, what's not, gaps in market, and combining those two data sources gives us really valuable insights, and that's where we start working at our strategy and strategic positioning.
Awesome. Do you have an example of how you've taken that information and then applied it to a particular project?
Yeah, definitely. So we had a project in Clyde called Bella, and it was probably there were definitely bigger projects coming to market around it, and it was sort of about 400 lots or so. A lot of the projects that were on market had been on market for sort of 5 or 6 years and had more traditional lot grids in terms of 32 meter deep grids. And what we started to see was that there was this real there was a
Gap,
growing part of
wasn't it? Mm.
pardon?
It was like a gap in the market, wasn't it?
Yeah, a growing gap in the market where people wanted to live in that area, but the blocks were just too big and they just weren't affordable. And the new projects that were coming to market sort of rectified that a little bit. They were looking at 28, 32 grids, but what we saw is, well, if there's this growing part of the market and there's more and more affordability constraints, why don't we just be bold and be intentionally young in our marketing, be intentionally young in our product mix, and just really go hard into that niche. So we had a lot of 25, 28 meter grids with 21 meter bookends, and some, mix of medium density in there. So we we intentionally went for that first home buyer market, and we launched through COVID, which was a bit risky, sort of really had to back ourselves in, and it was an amazing success in that we sold out all 400 lots before we even titled a single lot. So
Wow.
just the demand for it, and like I said, we got the right eyeballs to it, and people felt like, oh, this is a community for me because that's a cool photo, and that's like where I'd like to shop. Versus a lot of very family friendly lifestyle shots, and it's amazing just those small little nuances you just get right, and the dramatic change it can make to your sales results. So yeah, that was definitely one that we can sort of hang our hat on and be like, yep, I think we got that one right.
Well done. That's awesome. So, all right. So now talking about some of the larger projects and maybe some of the ones that have been around for a little while, that I'm curious to hear how developers are working with their sustainability ideas. So estates like Mandalay and maybe some of the others. What are you seeing that developers are doing really well?
Yeah, if I take Mandalay, for example, that community sort of has been on market, I think, for just under 10 years now, and they had some great sustainable initiatives for the time in terms of they are built around a golf course, so it's quite a green, lush estate. But they've made sure that they've created reserves where they can capture stormwater, um, to then be able to irrigate the
Right.
golf courses and whatnot sustainably. But I think now when I look at some of the new communities that I've been working on for quite some time, like I just referenced before, Lovely Banks, which is the largest of 14,000 lots, some of the things that they're looking at now, um, it's uh, how do I say? It's not sci-fi, but I've seen everything from people looking at solar panels that can be put into footpaths to generate,
Electricity, of course.
power. And
Yep.
yeah. There's another project that I'm working on in the north that's investigating geothermal heating and cooling as a more affordable and environmentally sustainable option to, sort of gas and electricity. So I think people are looking at big shifts, and I think probably what also is a big shift in that sustainability space, and particularly for these large master plan communities, is not just looking at the land and the community space itself. It's now looking at the built form and taking into consideration the built form, because obviously where densities are increasing to, we're going to have to start thinking about house and land more hand in hand, and not we can just partner with the builder on all these lots. It's going to have to be a lot closer relationship. And I think for big master plan communities as well that care about legacy, they care about how things look and how they're going to age. And also there's a sustainable element to that. Homes shouldn't just last for 15, 20, 30 years. There should be longevity in that product too. So there's definitely an appetite for that at the moment. I'm sort of working on some study groups in the background around some of these things and different building um, yeah, methodologies and whatnot. So I think we'll see a big shift in that, as well as people looking to, you know, whether or not it's UNESCO City of Design principles or some of the more globally accredited um, certifications. We do have EnviroDev obviously here, which is through the UDIA, but I do know that there's, many of our developer partners are looking into different accreditations as well at the moment.
Cool. And you mentioned earlier that you went on a study tour in the US to see some of the master plan communities there. Are there any examples that you can bring to Australia and what you're going to, I guess, campaign and champion in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty interesting in that there were some things that I feel we're doing well in terms of that conversation around sustainability and who we're building for. I definitely feel like, in comparison to some of the places that we saw, they were really focused on profitability, and it was these, big businesses just building what was the most profitable product and couldn't even tell you who was living in their communities. And so I felt like that was a real separation from, I feel like we're quite people centered, and we care about that human centered design probably a lot more, as well as that sustainability piece. But there were some outliers to that. Like we did go to Serenbe, which is a really interesting community. It's almost sort of set in farmland, and you'd have like a horse paddock and the stables there next to a six-story building, and just to see how they sort of interplayed. And their whole thing was a 70-30, but in reverse. That was keep 70% of the land green and lush and, to be able to be enjoyed, and then develop 30% of it, but develop it more intensely.
Mm.
So they've done that, I would say, to quite a successful level. It feels really great. It's now one of the most desirable communities sort of within their state that they're in. But in terms of other key takeouts, it was probably a lot more around the built form, and then what they've done well in creating some character through built form. And there was recent changes here in Vic, I'm not sure if it's nationally as well, where the Fonzie flat in that where you can put the second dwelling within your backyard. So there was a lot of examples of that sort of product that we saw over there. And I think some of the people in the study tour, I think, were working with government in terms of pushing that through here. So yeah, they were probably the key takeaways. Like I said, I think we probably are a lot more environmentally conscious in Australia versus the States, but I'm definitely keen to look at other places around the world who are maybe a bit more advanced in that sustainability space on sort of the next tour we do.
That's wonderful. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about some of the regional developments that you've been involved with, side amongst many of the others. It seems to be a fairly recent sort of initiative, but as you mentioned, COVID, a lot of people were leaving the major cities and going regional. So how has that sort of played out over the last little while?
Yeah, definitely through COVID, we saw the big push there. Like I said, where Geelong, we couldn't have enough lots on the prices to service everyone. Definitely post COVID, that has cooled a little bit, but we have noticed that our developer partners, because we obviously have a land team who deal with broadacre transactions, that they've definitely had more people inquiring about regional opportunities. And I think where regional has an important part to play is this whole conversation we're having about affordability. And I know with the change to focus of potentially more infill versus greenfields, I still don't understand how the economics stack up to deliver affordable housing in an infill location where it's more costly to deliver. So that's where I think, these regional locations, they've got so much value in terms of, they've already got existing town centres, they've already got road networks in, a lot of these new communities that we're working on in these regional spaces, they're already part of the town. So to add supply there, you're already connecting into amenity, you're already connecting into community. And I think that you're able to do it obviously a lot more affordable price than in some of these metro areas. So I think that people are starting to see the value within some of these regional areas, and also the huge benefit in lifestyle. So we've got projects anywhere from Colac to Nagambie to Yea to Yarrawonga, all of these places. And it's really interesting to see the diverse mix of people looking at these regions. It's not just, downsizes or tree changes. It's young families who don't want an $800,000 mortgage and want to be able to walk their kids to school and all those things. So I think regional has a key part to play. And also clearly there's a housing crisis in a lot of these regional towns, less than the 1% vacancy rate. So adding new supply to these areas is also important just from a social standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you finding planning constraints within those regional towns? Are they open to developers coming in and creating new supply?
You know what? I would say on the most part that they're probably more personable. They're easier to work with because they're not so big and they're not so structured. And I think they want to be involved because it's small towns, right? Everyone knows everyone and they want to be part of the outcome. So I think we've found in a lot of these regional areas that the councils are more willing to engage and more willing to pick up the phone and come on site tours and all these things because they want to work more closely. Whereas I think in some of the metro areas, it's more like, oh, yep, developer over here, and can't cancel employees over here, and you've got to keep that great wall of China between the two, and never the two shall meet sort of thing. Whereas definitely regionally is it's a lot more relaxed.
Interesting. All right. And so are you seeing this as a bit of a trend to influence the future of land development?
Yeah, I think, look, I definitely feel there's more developers looking further afield than what we've seen in the past, and even by the nature of the sites that we're now picking up regionally. And even in the past, we probably wouldn't have gone as far as some of these locations. But now seeing that's where the trend is, and I think over the years, and you'd probably be across this, 20 years ago, you'd buy within 5-10 kilometres of where you grew up and where your parents live. But that's not the case now. People move from the north to the east to the southeast, and that's by virtue of a lot of the greenfields market.
Awesome. So we've talked across a whole range of different topics. Now let's get to legacy. Obviously, you're here for the long term. You've got an amazing passion for greenfields. What would you like to leave here as people remember you for, I guess, the greenfield space?
Yeah, I think it's really, you know, and I talk to my team about this all the time, is us really understanding that we are the voice and the representative of the future resident and really bringing to the fore and always championing what's going to make their experience in their community the best, and thinking from that sort of human-centered design perspective first and foremost. So that's a big thing, and thinking about that long term. And then I think probably second to that, a lot of when I came into the industry, I think it was quite, it was pretty blokey. I was definitely an outlier in a lot of the meetings, and I've never been a massive champion for women in any particular space, but it's been really nice to see over the years as I've sort of ascended in leadership roles and now have the fortunate position of, being co-CEO of sort of my own company, seeing some of the amazing female talent coming through and drawn to our business, being like, oh, there's a place for me to go, and there's a place where I can reach those heights, and is a welcoming environment. So like I said, we don't have any quotas. We're not to gender bent on anything, but I think just being a safe space for everyone that wants to come and be passionate about greenfields, want to come and work on the best communities in the space and have input on that. That's the space that I want to create, and hopefully connect with people on.
Well, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. So just as a little ending to it, thank you so much for listening to the Land Pioneers podcast, where we interview some of the most prominent land developers in the industry today. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us here. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and remember to rate and share the podcast if you found it of interest. And remember to click subscribe when you're there so you don't miss an episode. Nicki, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Dan. It's been great to chat.